Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on maximizing profit with email archiving, a comprehensive sales guide for MSPs. Thank you all so much for joining today. We're very excited to bring you this webinar. I'm delighted to be joined by a panel of speakers here today. We have Brandon Ruiz, CEO of MSPs, Connor Catazano, TitanHQ account manager, and Alex Schumark, ArcTitan product specialist. Before we get started, just some housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded and we'll send out the recording after the event, so please feel free to share with your team. We'll be doing a survey at the end and we appreciate if you just take a minute to let us know what you thought of the webinar and any feedback. So just a quick introduction to TitanHQ for those who aren't familiar. So TitanHQ is a best-in-class cybersecurity platform delivering layered security solutions to MSPs. TitanHQ is headquartered in Galway, Ireland, with an office in Shelton, Connecticut. We provide multi-layered cybersecurity solutions, including phishing protection, email security, security awareness training, DNS filtering, email encryption, and email archiving, which brings us on to today's topic. So without further ado, Alex, Connor, Brandon, thank you all so much for being here today. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for having us. Well, I guess it'd be great to start things off. Brandon, will you talk a little bit more about MSPs? How many people you employ, what verticals you work in?
Yeah, absolutely. MSPs, we're an MSP located out of Toledo, Ohio. We have about 28 employees currently, looking to add more as we speak. So if you know anybody out there, send them my way. But we have several divisions that we work with. We have what's called our hardware as a service side, and we have our standard MSP side. So with our hardware as a service, we provide all of the equipment to our customers and the support. And with our MSP, we just provide the support for their existing equipment. With each side or with each service, we provide a stack of software included in our pricing, and we'll get into that a little bit further.
Okay, great. And as far as verticals go, do you have any specific verticals that you work within, or is it really everything?
We work with mostly any company. We do have several areas that we seem to be more prominent in. We are very high on our hardware as a service side with nonprofit organizations. That runs about 35% of our revenue. And then same on the other end of the spectrum, we do a lot of machine shops. Those customers seem to be less computer savvy, I guess, if you will, and more into the making sure that they're doing the machining and the design work that they need to do, and try to stay away from. They actually stay away from upgrading their equipment, which is why it's nice to have it as on our equipment, because we can upgrade them every 3 years without any issue.
Okay, sounds great. So I imagine you probably experienced some growing pains getting to as large as you are with MSPs. Do you have any advice or recommendations, things you would have done differently if you could go back and start it all over again?
I'm sure there's a lot of things that we would do differently. Everybody seems to stumble every once in a while. But one of the bigger things is we used to not offer our software. We used to offer our software separately. As we've grown and matured on both sides of the house, as a hardware as a service and from our MSP, we include our security stack, which we're proud to have TitanHQ as part of that, in all of our offerings. And what that does is that allows us to not have to really sell based on a specific need. Sometimes it's hard to go in there and let a customer or tell a customer why they need something, and they're looking back at you like, well, then why do I need to spend this much money in order to get it? It becomes a much easier sell if I just say, hey, I'm going to give you this software as part of our service. Not only does that allow me to service them easier and more efficiently, it protects them in ways that the customer is unaware of, and it makes our job just that much easier.
Okay, great. That's some fantastic insight. So you've been with us for about 12 years now, from MSPs and TitanHQ. What made you initially kind of pick us? What did you like about our solutions compared to others that you looked at?
Yeah, so there's a lot of solutions out there. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're partnering with somebody that is going to be effective, not only from a pricing standpoint, but also from a security standpoint. And when we evaluated all of the different options, TitanHQ has a great swath or security suite available for us with a myriad of different products. So it makes it easier for us to just have, one partner, one solution, if you will, and with a myriad of different products. And that's why we went with TitanHQ.
Oh, great. Yeah, we love to hear that. So I guess getting into ArcTitan, we typically find that ArcTitan is one of the easiest solutions to deploy that we have. It's very effective. Is that similar to the experience that you faced when enabling ArcTitan for your clients?
Absolutely. We find it very easy for us to install. It's not time consuming at all. I mean, while there is some time that needs to be done there, it's far less than any other deployments that we have. Setting up a customer can be done in usually minutes rather than a standard length of time.
Great. Thank you for that.
Brandon, can I dig in a little more to what you were saying about bundling your security solution in your managed service? We've kind of over time, we've seen a shift from archiving being a solution that's sort of predominantly required by highly regulated organizations or those in kind of niche industries to way broader adoption, thanks to modern data protection laws and just the ever-growing dependence on mission-critical data and email. You seem to have been really successful in selling ArcTitan to customers across a range of industries, like from micro businesses to some fairly sizable clients that you guys have got there. Would you put that entirely down to this bundling metric, or did you already have quite a broad range of customers, even when you were kind of on an a la carte option, if you like?
No, I mean, you've hit it on the nail on the head. It's hard to tell people, hey, you need to have a backup service and you need to have an archiving service. So we've had a greater success bundling it with our services and providing it to all of our customers rather than trying to sell it individually. Again, what that does is obviously I have to make up for that in the services that I'm providing them and their pricing. But what that does is it makes it a lot easier for us to get to the items or get to the things that we need in the event that it is needed. And you never know when that's going to happen, especially if somebody says, I have to have an email that I no longer have, and you're kind of scratching your head going, how am I going to have this if we didn't archive this, this before? And even then going through with the backup solution, trying to, if you go back in the day of mounting a tape and trying to find the, the information there, you could spend the whole day trying to find that. Same thing with just your standard digital backups. It takes quite a long time to find the snapshot and make sure you've got the data and pull that and extract it and then get it back to the customer, where ArcTitan allows that to do that in minutes and saves us a ton of time. So again, while I'm not trying to sell it individually, because some people it's very hard to grasp why you would need it in the moment that it's not needed. Bundling this allows us to get it to all of our clients and allows us to save time in the event that they need to find an email.
Sure. And I guess, one of the key things for you guys in delivering a managed service is the efficiency, right? So how much time does it take you to serve the service requests that you get in for a given customer at a given rate? It sounds like from what you've said there, ArcTitan essentially enables you to deliver those kind of email restoration, those e-discovery search type tickets in a far more efficient way. Is that fair?
Absolutely. We're able to, well, we don't use ArcTitan as a backup solution for us. It is just an archiving solution, but it does allow us the ability to go in and get those one-off emails that customers either inadvertently miss or displace and things like that. And we can do that within minutes. Again, if I try to do that off a backup solution, it's going to take me a much longer time. Now, we do have the need every once in a while from a legal perspective. And that makes it very easy for us to allow a privileged user to go in there and have access to only the items that they are looking for. And again, saves us time because it's already built in there. We don't have to go through and try to scrape all this information or all these PSTs, all these emails, and provide that to a customer. Excuse me. and provide that to the client for whatever legal need that they may have. It's already built in there. All we have to do is say who's the person that needs access, what do they need access to, and within minutes we can allow that.
Sure, and I think you've covered this a little bit in what you just said there, but it's worth kind of picking at slightly. How do you kind of provide ArcTitan to your customers? It sounds like you're performing a lot of the kind of searches and email management tasks on behalf of them, but do you also have them self-serve in some respects? Do they generally access their own archives as well?
We will access the archives for them. We generally like to keep, from a safety standpoint, we generally like to keep that out of the hands of the client, if at all possible. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't allow that for them. Certainly from an MSP side, we work with customers that have their own IT staff and services. So there are times when we will allow that, just to make sure that, the right hand knows what the left hand's doing, and vice versa. But from the majority of from our standpoint, we like to keep that close to the vest so that we know that there's no issues or anything going on. We're taking care of that for the customer.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear. I think that there's sometimes we see an assumption that customers want to access their own archive content, that they want to be able to self-serve, and obviously we can support that really effectively. But I think a lot of the value that you can deliver as an MSP is in taking on some of those tasks that are maybe more technical or require an understanding of how to perform these searches and how to treat critical data safely, and do that on behalf of customers. So yeah, really great to hear.
Yep, absolutely.
And Brendan, so we know there's a ton of different use cases for an email archiving solution, whether it's legal discovery, data retention, compliance by law. Do you have any examples of a time where ArcTitan has helped you and your client base?
Yeah, I mean, we do it all the time. Obviously, people misplace emails or delete emails accidentally, so it comes in handy from that perspective. We've had to do legal searches where we've had to have attorneys come in and have access to that, for a various myriad of reasons. For some of our clients, most of it is just, trying to make sure that they have a paper trail of emails that were sent for either HR purposes, HIPAA compliance purposes, auditing, accounting purposes, and things like that. So, we find that we need it more often than not, but it's not like so much that it's inundating our services or taking up a lot of time. Again, it is nice to have it already in place and not have to scramble to try and do something, when something comes up of that nature.
Definitely. Thank you, Bob.
It's pretty hard to conjure up an archive, in response to a request, right? It's a good thing to do in preparation as insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing, we always, when we started this, we found one instance where before we started archiving, we had a customer that needed a specific email, and it's, if it's not there, it's not there. If it wasn't there before we started archiving, it's not going to be there now. So we always run into that occasionally of like, hey, it was gone before we even started doing this, so we can't get it back. But not too often, but there are those cases.
Thanks. Yeah. And I guess, so in some respects, it's an insurance policy, right? You guys put this in place so that, fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong, but if it does, you've always got that record for your clients. You can always find that content, yeah?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's a time saver. It's a customer saver, if you will, for us, so that when we can go back and just say, yeah, we've got that, and they're like, you do? We're like, cool. We're not paying for anything extra for that. We're like, no, it's included with our service. It makes things a lot easier, again, not only from the client side, but from our support side, to just be able to say, we've got you covered.
Perfect. So avoiding, risk for the customer directly in a compliance or legal or just audit scenario, and I guess risk for you guys reputationally if you're unable to serve these, what sometimes people think is a really simple request to find an email from 7 years ago that they've decided is critical to whatever they're doing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, again, having that in place for all of our customers, again, makes life super simple.
Definitely. Has ArcTitan helped you at all from a sales perspective, adding new customers, having an offering? Is there any situations where that's been beneficial with you in retention of customers?
So yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why we started bundling our services. So the nice thing, again, as I touched on prior, was, I'd have to go out, let's just say I sold my MSP services to a customer, and then I'd have to go back to them and say, okay, what kind of antivirus do you want? What kind of web filtering do you want? What kind of spam filtering do you want? What kind of phishing simulations do you want? Do you want archiving service? Do you want backup service? It starts to just tumble down a rabbit hole of the customer going, why do I need all this stuff? And then I've got to spend the time to explain to them why they need it, why you want it. And then I've got to price it appropriately. And then if not, they don't want the stack, then, they may look somewhere else to see, this price is better than the price that you're giving me. So me bundling it not only saves me time on the front end, but it also saves me time on the back end. And when I go to customers and say, hey, I'm including all of this for you, you don't have to think about it. They're almost, I wouldn't say it's almost, but I mean, literally, like, really, I don't have to do this. I don't have to spend extra for that. I don't spend extra for that. It's almost like I want to sign right on the dotted line, right when we're right in front of them. There are some things that we have to do. Obviously, we have to price ourselves versus our competitors. So there are some adjustments that need to be made. But from a customer-friendly standpoint, I wouldn't want to go back to trying to sell these things as a one-off.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's better to sell peace of mind than a list of products, right?
Exactly.
I was going to ask this earlier, and I kind of thought that you'd mostly covered it with one of your previous answers, but it's potentially worth looping back to. We find that quite a lot of organizations have a few misconceptions about archiving. So maybe they think, I can already do that with my backups, which you've covered pretty helpfully there. Or maybe that, it's included with Exchange Online. I get it for free or something along those lines. And I was going to ask, how do you educate customers? But maybe I need to kind of reorient that question a little bit, because I would imagine the answer is we don't. We explain to them that it's necessary to deliver the service and it's bundled in, right? So I guess when you encounter customers who maybe don't value elements in your service, and if they want to kind of pick it apart, how do you kind of explain to them, this is what it allows us to do? How do you justify the inclusion of all these things, and presumably the price point that your managed service comes out at, in terms of that assurance that they get, the peace of mind, the quality of service?
I mean, it's pretty simple. Traditionally, my past life and worked for other companies, obviously, and we would go out and we'd sell them a managed service package, and it's like, okay, we're going to support your hardware, anything that comes up, and down the road we'd have an account manager go out to them and say, okay, we're gonna sell you this product, this archiving solution. It's going to be X dollars, and then we're going to say, oh, by the way, there's a project for us to implement that. That's going to be X amount of dollars. And then, oh, by the way, now we're going to have that added on top of your support agreement. So for us to support that, and so it's an additional X amount of dollars. So every time I go up against another competitor, that's what they're dealing with. They're saying, okay, here's all the dollars that I'm spending for this, just for this product, just for this implementation, just for this support, versus mine where I'm saying, hey, I've got it bundled into your agreement. And so, do I always win? No. There are times when our services may not meet the customer's needs, but the majority of the time, I'll take my service offerings over anybody else's anytime.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was also going to ask, is there any kind of killer feature of ArcTitan that you guys use very frequently?
Yeah, obviously just the searching functionality makes it super simple for us to go out and find an email for a customer.
Superb. And probably give you the opportunity to tell us the opposite. Are there any things that you'd like to see change in the product in future?
There are certain things I think that we could look at. I think if you did, built in as a true backup solution for other, Office 365, that would be phenomenal.
yeah, I mean, that's helpful to hear. Watch this space, definitely something that we're working towards building in to the offering. So I guess everyone watching, you heard it here first. We'll have some news for you on that in the coming months.
Perfect.
Great. Brandon, there's a lot of different MSPs watching here. When you're looking at kind of vendor partnerships, whether it was us or someone else that you're working with, what are some key things that you look for?
Obviously, there's a lot of things that we need to take into account when we're running a company. Price point is key, but second nature to that is going to be the relationships that we have with our partners. If I feel like I can call up Connor or Alex or anybody and kind of feel like they're going to actually listen to me, make me feel like I'm part of the team, make me feel like I'm family. That goes a long way. And I know a lot of companies try to do that, and they do an admirable job. I do think that with the partnerships that we have with TitanHQ and with you guys, it really does come across that way.
We definitely love to hear that. Is there anything in particular that would really put you off from a partnership selection?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we have partners that call us constantly about new offerings or things that we listen to, but then they're on the phone calling me 3-4 times a week just trying to get me to say yes to something that really does turn me off. I'm always willing to listen to new products and new offerings, but if I'm interested, you'll know right away, and if I'm not, you'll know right away as well. And if you can, usually just taking the hint of saying, hey, I'm going to lay off a little bit helps. But I'm sure other MSPs have that problem as well. But with you folks, again, it's you guys. Well, we have your whole solution, so there's no longer any pitching anymore. But prior to that, you guys were very easy to work with in letting us, make the evaluation ourselves rather than you trying to really push it down our throat.
Awesome. Thank you for that. No, I guess, Brandon, is there anything else you'd like to add? Maybe any advice to MSPs out there that could benefit them moving forward?
No, I mean, you've heard everything I've had to say. Whether or not my way of doing things is right for everybody, it's up for the individual to decide. But I do think we have a good model that we work with, especially working with TitanHQ. They're phenomenal to work with, so I will say that. You guys have really been great. And, this type of software or these type of services are hard to get in front of customers and say, you really need this particular package or this particular product. But us allowing to say that, hey, we're a TitanHQ partner, while it doesn't drive the business, it really does help us have a value add for our customers.
Good. Glad to hear that.
It's really good to hear. I think if I could get more of the partners that we work with to think similarly in terms of the value that the product can drive and how straightforward it can be to bundle it inside the managed service, then I'm doing a great job. And if I can keep listening to this kind of feedback and making sure that we're developing the product directly in response to the requests that you make and ensuring that it's a really good fit for the types of use cases that you've told us about today, then again we're probably doing a pretty good job as well. So it's been really good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys do a phenomenal job. And again, I'll add to the point that when we make suggestions, you guys take it to heart. And while everything can't be put on the roadmap or done immediately, we notice that you guys take suggestions that we have and apply them to the products. So that's helpful as well. Sure.
Are you specifically talking about the fact that we're going to launch Teams archiving there, or is it just a general?
General, no, everything from day one. When we ask for something, and not to say like we have anything more or less to add. I'm sure other people have the same requests, but it again, that family feel where we can actually jump on a call with you guys and say, here's our pain point. Can you guys help us with that? It seems to come through, and we do seem to get some traction with that. So I appreciate that.
Excellent, thanks. No more questions for me. That's been really helpful from my perspective. All good, Connor?
Yes, yeah, I'm all set. Thank you, Brendan. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
That was amazing. Just before we wrap up, oh God, that was so good. And just a disclaimer, we didn't pay Brandon to say all these nice things about us. It was really nice to hear. Totally unexpected, not totally unexpected, but it's nice to hear the good feedback, and we appreciate it. And nice to hear that, you know, when we get feedback, that we do take that on as well. So yeah, appreciate you, Brandon, taking the time to speak to us. Such a great discussion. I know you've got years of experience, and hopefully, well, I know people from listening will benefit from all you have to say. Just before we wrap up, for everyone listening, as I mentioned at the start, we'll have a survey at the end of the webinar. Let us know what you think of the webinar. Your feedback, as always, we appreciate it. And if you'd like to learn more about TitanHQ's email archiving solutions, you can let us know in the survey at the end as well. Alex, Brandon, and Connor, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I know everyone hopefully enjoyed it as much as I will.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.